So this will be in English, Clementina. Pleasure to be here. I'm the CEO of Sereno Scientific, and I today am joined by Dr. Rahul Agrawal, our new CMO and Head of Research and Development at Sereno. Very happy to share the stage with you, Rahul, today. Sereno started at Sahlgrenska University, so it's an innovation and a vision by Professor Sverker to do something completely new in cardiovascular disease. And I will share where we are to date, and we will do that here. I should say that we are very passionate about developing new drugs for patients in need. And we aim to provide a paradigm shift in both rare diseases and in the common and most deadly disease on the planet, thrombosis. So let's look at some slides. So the core of our research is based on epigenetic modulation. And we're doing that with HDAC inhibition. And what we do is we are not changing the DNA structure, but we're actually modulating the expression of proteins from DNA, which can go wrong in humans and then create a setup for diseases and danger as such. So we believe we are pioneering that effort with HDAC inhibition and untapping that potential in cardiovascular disease. And we have two programs. CS1 in phase 2 in the orphan disease, pulmonary arterial hypertension. It's a very deadly disease with a short lifespan. And we're in phase 2 in collaboration with Abbott in that program. And Rahul will go into details of that very exciting program at the moment. Our second program is CS014. It's a novel HDAC inhibitor. And we're targeting thrombosis prevention with that drug. And we're aiming to go into man with that compound by the end of the spring, so in Q2, soon to submit our IND to the ethical authorities. Our third program is an IP receptor agonist. It's based on an endogenic lipid, very selective for the IP receptor, very potent, and that's developed for cardiovascular disease in general, but we have some exciting data in thrombosis prevention also on that compound. It's still in preclinical development. We'll get into that later. Now, why do we believe that we have a paradigm shift potential with our drugs? Well, for one thing, we believe that we are, with HDAC inhibition, able to have a disease-modifying capacity. So we believe that we will be able to slow down the progression of the disease in cardiovascular disease in general, and specifically in pulmonary arterial hypertension, as we will go into later today. In thrombosis prevention, we believe that both of our drugs will be effective, but also, and most importantly, that they will not carry the risk of bleeding. Remembering that 3 out of 100 patients that get drugs today on the market die of spontaneous bleedings due to the drugs themselves. 25 out of 100 get any kind of bleed. And we should then note that that market is more than $25 billion today, and all drugs on that market cause bleeding. So we have an exciting portfolio: disease prevention, or reverse remodeling, for one thing, and prevention of thrombosis without causing increased risk of bleed. Now, if you have a great vision, what do? Well, you align yourself with the best minds in the world. And you can see here, Mount Sinai, a major important hospital in New York. The head of cardiology division and 270 cardiologists there is Deepak Bath. He's on our scientific advisory board. He's also on Bristol Myers Squibb's board, a major pharma. University of Michigan, we've had a collaboration for more than 3 years, and we have evaluated our 2 preclinical programs there, and one of the programs, the last one, CS585, we actually licensed for global development and commercial rights. We are collaborating with Harvard. We have a major collaboration with Abbott, a major medtech company, for our phase 2 trial with their cutting-edge technology, CardioMEMS. Rahul will get into the details of that. So we are utilizing for 2 of our programs epigenetic modulation to provide efficacious and safer medicines in PAH and thrombosis prevention. And why do we believe that we have this disease-modifying capacity? Well, it's been shown in numerous proof-of-concept studies with HDAC inhibition, with our compound, that we have an ability to reduce pulmonary pressure, reverse remodeling of structure, both the muscles, so muscle cells in the vascular tree, as well as the heart. Our compound is anti-fibrotic, it's anti-inflammatory, and in addition, as I mentioned, we can prevent thrombosis without increased risk of bleed. These are all very important characteristics if you want to do something serious with patients that have these diseases, and specifically for our phase 2 program in PAH. Now, just summarizing, we have 3 programs. The lead program is a repurposed valproic acid into the formulation CS1 in phase 2 in collaboration with Abbott, a study that's pursued in the US and soon to be concluded this year. And we have some really interesting clinical findings from that study that you will hear about today, which provides hopes for that we actually are doing something really important with the drug in PH. Our second program, CS014, a novel HDAC inhibitor that just got a patent approved, the first patent in the UK, and which we are pursuing for thrombosis prevention and will move into first time in man before the summer. And the third program, a very novel IP receptor agonist, still in preclinical development, but with exciting data in thrombosis prevention without increased risk of bleed. So with those words, I'll leave the manic over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So it's a pleasure to be here. Rahul Agrawal is my name. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at this exciting company. And maybe up front, min svenska är dålig. That's why I'll continue in English, okay? So I think I would like to share with you why personally we, but also the scientific community is so excited, not only about this drug, but what we are doing in the study that I'd like to briefly present to you in the phase 2 trial in PAH patients. What we are doing is looking at 30 patients, and of course, first and foremost, it'll be a safety and tolerability study. But we're also looking at exploratory efficacy data. We're not only doing that, if I may say so, the usual way, but as Sten was already alluding to, we are using very innovative methods, and I'll go into the CardioMEMS and exactly what it is in the next slide. This is a mechanical device developed by Abbott, and we are in close collaboration with them. But besides that, we are also looking at all the endpoints that the FDA and EMA require for this rare and debilitating disease. We are looking at many of the aspects that have been done. It is a size of 30 patients, and I'll go into more details what we're doing on the next slides. Basically, so what we're doing is CardioMEMS. MEMS stand for micro electromechanical system developed by Abbott. What it does is it gives a continuous hemodynamic measurement within and from the heart. So it is implanted once through a right heart catheter, and then it is sort of a self-sustaining device which gives continuous information what is happening within the heart. This is so novel. Why? Because usually what one does is one uses invasive right heart catheter and measures, and one has a one-time measurement. Here we have the luxury and the very innovative possibility to look at how patients are reacting, if you would like, on a daily basis. So this is information which has never been gotten before. And that's why also the responsible chief medical officer at Abbott is so excited that we're doing this collaboration. It's a first ever collaboration for this indication. CardioMEMS, by the way, is already approved for left heart disease, so it is something which is established, but has never been done in this fashion. The FDA also, for the first time, the medical device and the product departments went together and also approved of this approach that we are having. So again, something which is not only creating excitement by us or in us, but also in the community. The sites that we're taking are some leading sites regarding this disease, pulmonary arterial hypertension. As you can see, it's a very good distribution. Sten was already alluding to that we're also collaborating with some of the leading centers, well-known centers, and these are some of the sites which are very well known, together also with our principal investigator, Professor Raymond Benza, who is one of the worldwide leading figures for this disease entity. So, what are we doing? And the good thing is the flow of good news is something which is very encouraging. As you can see, so far, we have already 25 patients with this device, CardioMEMS. 24 have been randomized, and 20 have already completed the trial. So we think at this rate, we should have completion in Q3 of this year. So we are making good progress there. What is very encouraging also for us, and again, please keep in mind this is all blinded data, but we already received a patient case, which you may have heard of. We also had a press release there, with very positive results where some of the key factors like mean pulmonary artery pressure, and I'll explain that maybe later what exactly that means, there was a reduction of that by 30%. This is one of the things that really is sort of for the pathophysiology deciding in these patients. We also saw a clear improvement of other parameters and also of the well-being. What it means to go from functional class 2 to 1 means that patients who were feeling at this exertion already sort of shortness of breath, if they go to functional class 1, that means they can do their normal duties and daily routines, which is a big thing for patients and their caretakers, something very, very important we should keep in mind. But there was further positive news that we got and we shared with you, and that is that the Data Quality Control Initiative, that is usually done if you have a medical device, they said that what they're seeing is very much in line with the patient case that we had received. So again, very encouraging data. Please keep in mind, we have not unblinded the data yet, but still all the signs are positive. Not only from the patient side, but also from the regulatory side. When we applied for extended access program, that means that patients are eligible to receive the drug even after the study has been completed. We got a very positive nod from the FDA beginning of this year. So all of these signs line up actually, if you would like, in the right direction, encouraging us on the path we are in. So allow me to go a little bit into the details, what it means to have extended access program. And I would just maybe also like to show you the quote from our principal investigator, Professor Raymond Benza from New York, that it allows patients to be on continued treatment if they like to. And that is something which is, of course, very important. We have already applied for it, but naturally it has to be approved by the regulatory boards, and we're just awaiting those approvals, hopefully very, very shortly. Allow me to just briefly also say what we will be doing in the extended access program. Naturally, what we want to do is that patients, and we have very positive feedback from the centers and the patients that they would like to, we call it roll over into the extended access program, that they would be initially, of course, on the same dose, because we don't know what the optimal dose is. But once we have the readout of the study, then, of course, we would put them on the optimal dose so that they have maximum benefit from the drug and the treatment that we're giving them. So this is something very, very important. And besides that, we will, at intervals, also be looking at various parameters, hemodynamic parameters, well-being parameters, but also other biomarkers to just ensure that we are on track. So this will allow us, in real-world setting, to have, if you would like, long-term data on these patients regarding the drug, so that all of this information will feed into the next steps that we take. This would mean a more lenient trial. This would mean we're optimizing the benefit. And of course, from the commercial side, it would mean smaller trials, less costs, and hopefully faster to market and commercialization once we get there. Just briefly, to give you a view of what is exactly PAH, pulmonary arterial hypertension. It's a debilitating disease. It usually affects women as compared to men, 70 to 30. The age range is around 40 to 50 years of age. So that means these ladies, usually ladies, are in the midst of their careers, of their lives, of their families. And once they hear the diagnosis, unfortunately, the prognosis without therapy is very short, 2.5 years. In the last 15 years, there have been new therapies which have extended a little bit sort of the life to 7.5 years. But I would like to point out one thing, that all of the therapies so far on the market only address the so-called vasodilation. That means they expand the vessels, but they do not actually go at the core of the disease. So they're not disease modifying, but all they do is, if you'd like, a symptomatic treatment. Already a good step, but we think, of course, not good enough. We need to do more. So this is something you should keep in mind. So far, no cure for pulmonary arterial hypertension so far. Don't worry, I will not go into all the details here, but what I would like to maybe just highlight is that if the vessels, the pulmonary arteries, are damaged, of course they remodel, and the remodel may have a positive connotation, but in this sense, it's actually something negative or bad. Keep in mind that the right heart pumps, and if you just imagine that, every time it pumps around 140 milliliters of blood into the pulmonary vessels. Approximately there are 277 billion capillaries. No, I did not count them, but this is approximately the estimate that there is. That means it's approximately a tennis court that the right heart has to oxygenize with every time the heart pumps. So if the vessels are damaged, you can imagine what limitations that results into for patients. So this is something which we would like to address. The patients are, of course, limited in their quality of life, in their lifespan, and in many other things. A huge burden. So we believe that what we are addressing with the HDAC that Sten was alluding to, we are not only reducing pulmonary pressure, which is very important, but also we are affecting the remodeling. We can maybe hopefully reverse this. That's what we like to see. We have antifibrotic and anti-inflammatory properties, and all in all, also antithrombotic. So we have a whole cascade of things that affect the patients, and we are hoping to address all of that and show that and back up that with results that we'll be getting very soon and sharing with all of you. Besides this, as Sten was alluding to, we have an exciting portfolio, follow-up compounds, and allow me to briefly state where we are there and what the developments are there. So the first one I'd like to go into is the CS014, again, an HDAC inhibitor with epigenetic effects. What and where do you want to go there? So before I do that, just briefly to give you a view, what are we addressing? Again, here, we want to address an area of high unmet medical need. Cardiovascular disease is, as you know, the #1 killer in the world. The basis of that is usually thrombotic events on the arterial or on the venous side, depends on what you're looking at. And it is a huge number, but still, as was just mentioned, yes, there are developments, but they also have downsides. So we do want to have the anticoagulation, but of course want to have the bleeding risk at a minimal. This has not been found yet. Bleeding is still a huge issue, and that's why there's a huge resistance also for physicians and patients to sometimes take the drugs because of this fear. So I think I've just alluded to that. There are huge numbers. What we are seeing is that there are some very exciting, of course, so far, preclinical data from the University of Michigan, which have been also presented at the largest cardiovascular conference of the world last year at the so-called European Society of Cardiology, ESC, where we have very promising results. We will be starting a phase 1 trial in the first half of this year, and we will, of course, keep you updated on the developments there. So, exciting things happening here, and we're sharing the results. Professor Hollenstadt from the University of Michigan has done that. He is also, he's also involved with the next program, the CS585, which is an IP receptor agonist. Here, the results are so exciting because it seems there's a high receptor affinity. That means a high potency. And what we envision is an oral dosaging. The nice thing was when these preclinical data were presented at one of the largest hematological congresses, Blood, that is the journal, they put it in the editorial, it was on the podcast, so it received a lot of attention and noise. Of course, it's in preclinical, we are going to develop it further, but again, these are very promising signs and signals that we want to build on using very creative, innovative ways, using also the scientific leaders in this field to make sure that we use a path so that we can really make the best of these ideas and compounds and bring it to the market at the earliest. With that, thank you very much, and I'd like to hand over to Sten, who will give you an overview of the possibilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you.
Exciting, huh? So just a couple of slides at the end here. An overview of our portfolio. So what do you do when you're a biotech and you develop your vision, you get connected with the best in the world, you try to get the best people involved to develop your compounds, and then you want to attract capital, otherwise you can't do anything. And I'm happy to have a fantastic team gathered with Sereno, a growing team with more competence and skills as we go. And we have also attracted some very, very interested investors who put a lot of effort to support our company and follow us every day, I would say. So that's very, very helpful for the company. And as you move on, you want to develop the company either to market introduction, so you become a sustainable company that way, and you have a drug on the market, you create revenues, etc. Or, as many biotechs do, you do a deal, right, on a compound for global rights, you sell the whole asset, or you do a co-development or a development deal. So you get milestone payment, upfront payments, and then milestone payments. So, in a biotech, you pursue many paths in parallel. Financing path, developing your programs, and another path is partnering path. And that depends where you are in your life, so to speak, as a company. Sereno is now at the part in our life, or a stage in our life, where we have a great opportunity to be more active in the partnering scene, because many biotechs do a deal when you have very interesting proof of concepts in preclinical work, and even more so if you have it in your clinical phase 2 program. And we have actually both. We have very exciting preclinical work to date in thrombosis with the two assets, CS585 and CS014. And of course, if you're in phase 2 with a pH molecule such as CS1 that looks to have disease-modifying capacity and looks to actually be working very promising in the clinical aspects as we have seen, and Rahul presented here, you're in a hot spot for a potential deal. So we're pursuing that. And how do you present yourself? Well, we have a drug in phase 2, that's CS1. That's a deal possibility. We have, of course, an HDAC portfolio that could be partnered to a major company that wants to explore many indications for those assets. A broader approach, if you will. And then, of course, thrombosis prevention per se, there are the factor 11s that are pursued by the majors today. They haven't shown what they were supposed to promise to do yet. No real efficacy at this point, and 2 disappointments for both the companies and the market. So if you have something new there, it's exciting. They're also running out of patents in a few years. So this is how we present ourselves, and I will be joining other leaders or partners in Barcelona at the BioEurope conference in, 17th, 18th of March, and my calendar looks pretty thick. So thank you so much, and if you are interested in upcoming milestones, they are here. So phase 1 trial for CS014, completing the phase 2 trial for CS1, initiation, of course, or coming out with the top-line data for CS1, and then negotiating or preparation for negotiations with the FDA for the pivotal work. I should say that we are actually at this moment doing a financing round of an option package that was connected to our previous share issue when we listed on NASDAQ in July last year. And that's ongoing until the 19th of March. So that's the subscription period, 5th to the 19th of March. If you're sitting on those, I suggest you use them. Thank you.